Recording in progress.
All right. Good morning, everyone who's able to watch us live today. Good afternoon, good evening, watching if you're watching the recordings on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you come from. Thank you so much, and we appreciate those who are liking, subscribing, and sharing. Believe it or not, that's the best way you can help us. If you believe what we're doing on our updates here on political and legal news, if you want to get the word out, if you want to help us out, that's the simple, easy, free thing you can do. Like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. And so thank you to everyone. Again, I have a kitty cat trying to tear my hat off right now. It's morning time. The kitty's had a nice nap overnight, and now everybody's very active. So today we're in an interesting situation today. I have no script, no slides. I'm just gonna. This is one of those days where I talk to you from the heart about how we got here and what's going on. So right now, a Marine infantry battalion is being deployed to Los Angeles in a manner where they are sort of set up to confront civilians in the United States. The United States, our great country, of which I'm very proud, I have personally taken an oath to uphold and defend and protect the Constitution of the United States and the state of California. And I know some of you out there have as well. It's part of my job taking that oath. Um, our country is 236 years old. We have a 236-year-old experiment in Republican government, liberal democracy. We are an aberration of world history. Most of world history is authoritarianism, kings, dictators, despots. The United States is the most successful and longest lasting experiment in self-governance in world history. 236 years old. Active duty troops have never been deployed uh, in the United States in a manner to confront civilians in 236 years. Never happened. In fact, it is illegal to do that. It is expressly illegal under the laws of the United States. We have something called the Posse Comitatus Act, which makes it illegal to deploy active duty troops within the borders of the United States. It is only legal in cases of actual rebellion against the United States, which is not happening. And here we have a battalion of Marines from Camp Pendleton driving an hour up the coast to Los Angeles. So let's take a deep breath and let's talk about how we got there. So again, I'm Ian Foster, business and tax lawyer, 30 years in government and politics. And this is my empowered political life for, gosh, what is the date already? June 10th, 2025. Where's the time going? So as you're aware, for the past few months, we've had some interesting immigration crackdowns from the current administration. And now there have always been immigration crackdowns, immigration raids, and typically the way this stuff worked is ICE agents or other Homeland Security agents, they would show up to a place, they would have deportation orders, arrest warrants, they'd wear their jackets, show their ID, they would say, where's so-and-so? They would go get them, they'd arrest them, they deport them. That's how it works. That's perfectly normal. That's how things work in civilized society. The immigration raids recently have been getting more and more brutal. And they've been getting brutal to the point of inciting local communities to resist from it. So instead of ICE agents showing up in their little windbreakers with their ID and arrest warrants, now we have ICE agents showing up in full on tactical gear as though they're raiding a house in Fallujah in 2006. As though they're Navy SEALs, body armor, masks, helmets, assault rifles, the whole thing. And they were showing up to workplaces and work sites, presenting no identification, no arrest warrants, no deportation orders, and just snatching people in military style raids, as though these folks are mass murderers and you need a no-knock raid to go in and get them. So what happened was they started doing this in the late last week, Thursday and Friday. They did this in the city of Paramount, California. I want to be clear, it's the city of Paramount. I've heard some folks saying that they raided the Paramount Studios lot. That is not what happened. They did not raid Paramount Studios, the movie production company. There is a city called Paramount just east of downtown Los Angeles in LA County in California. So they raided some places, including a Home Depot parking lot, some businesses in the city of Paramount. And again, they did this in their extremely exaggerated way, full on tactical gear, body armor, assault rifles, masked people, no arrest warrants, no deportation orders, just taking people again, as though they were in Iraq in 2006 getting terrorists and mass murders. The city of Paramount did not like this. They are tearing apart families, they're tearing apart communities, they're causing great disruption to the city. We have no idea whether the people they snatched off the streets are legal or illegal. I suspect many of them probably are here illegally, but we don't know because nobody's being given due process. We've discussed this in a number of videos, right? Again, there are no arrest warrants, no deportation orders being presented, no identification, no nothing. We don't know for sure. And so the city started protesting. The city came out in massive numbers, the city of Paramount. There were also raids in Compton. So the city of Compton started protesting as well. Compton is just south of downtown Los Angeles, if you're not familiar with California geography. So in Paramount and Compton, we have a couple neighborhoods where people are coming out and protesting. To be clear, 99% of the protesters are peaceful. They're exercising their First Amendment rights. Yes, they are yelling at officers. You're allowed to do that. Yes, many of them are waving Mexican flags. You're allowed to do that. Waving foreign flags is a First Amendment protected speech. In fact, I have been in SoCal over the last week. I saw a minor little, very peaceful protest in Corona, California. People were waving Mexican and American flags side by side. Nobody was offended by any of it. Um, Huge Hispanic population in California. I happen to think the Mexican flag is beautiful. They're a very proud people, a proud nation. Um, so it's a huge part of California. Remember, California used to be part of Mexico, a huge part of our heritage here. So 99% of the protesters are peaceful. And now I know you're seeing videos on television of burning cars and people throwing rocks at ICE officers, and that is not great. That's the 1% on the fridge. They should not be throwing rocks at ICE officers. They should not be burning cars. Violence and property damage during protests are unacceptable and they should not be doing it. But they are the 1%. How do we know this? The LAPD and the LA County Sheriff's Office both issued statements saying these protests are almost entirely peaceful, and the handful of people who are getting out of hand, it is we are more than capable as the local law enforcement to handle the very few people that are getting out of hand. So things were basically by Saturday and Sunday starting to calm down because local law enforcement was taking care of the handful of bad actors. Now, look, in any protest, you're going to get some bad actors, right? You get 10,000 people protesting, 9,990 of them are going to be peaceful. You're going to get those 10 bad actors in there. You're always going to get that. That's human nature. Okay. So the local police made it clear that these were almost entirely peaceful protests and that they were handling the handful of bad actors. They were more than capable of doing that. We're talking about relatively minor disturbances. Now, but of course, the administration used those handful of bad actors who are throwing rocks and burning cars as an excuse to escalate. So the administration then federalized 2,000 California National Guard troops. Now, again, this was probably illegal. The president does have the authority to federalize the National Guard, but again, only in cases of rebellion against the United States and only with the consent of the governor. The last time National Guard troops were deployed against civilians was 1992 in Los Angeles during the Rodney King riots. You remember, at least I do, I was watching it live on TV. I'm sure many of you were also. The Rodney King riots were true riots. What we're seeing now is not a riot in any way, shape, or form. The Rodney King riots were true riots, massive numbers of people committing massive numbers of property damage, hurting people. They were true riots. So the National Guard was deployed to quell the Rodney King riots in 1992. That was done with the consent, not just with the consent, but at the behest of California's governor at the time, Pete Wilson. Pete Wilson was a fairly successful Republican governor in California in the 90s, fairly popular and successful governor. He deployed the National Guard again, but it was at the governor's behest. The last time a president deployed the National Guard without the governor's consent was 1965 in Alabama in order to protect Black school children who were going to school after courts ordered the schools to be integrated, and the locals were threatening to hurt the Black school children. So 1965 is the last time a president deployed the National Guard without the consent of the government. Now, nothing like any of that is happening right now. There are no riots happening. The city of Los Angeles is not burning. In fact, some news channels are showing footage of other riots that happened elsewhere in prior years and making it sound as though that's happening now in Los Angeles. It's not. I was just there 2 days ago. I was there. I was there for a week. We have a rental property down there. We're dealing with that. I was just there. The city of LA is not on fire. There are peaceful protests in a couple of neighborhoods with a handful of bad actors. And again, those bad actors need to be prosecuted for the crimes they're committing. Throwing rocks at police is a crime. Burning cars is a crime. And those people have been arrested and they are being held accountable, and local authorities are handling it. We also had an entirely peaceful protest in downtown Los Angeles where nothing happened. Okay. So this is 99% peaceful with a handful of bad actors. And yet the 2,000 National Guard troops were deployed. Now, interestingly, those 2,000 National Guard troops are in bad shape. Okay. They were ordered to be deployed in a manner to confront civilians, which they are not really prepared to do and don't want to do. And at the same time, while they were deployed, the government, the federal government, did not appropriate money for them to have food, water, and shelter. So these National Guard troops were deployed to Los Angeles, and there is video of them sleeping on concrete floors in the basements of federal buildings because nobody got them a place to stay. And they are spending their own personal money on food and water because the government didn't give them money for it. So even they are not prepared for this. Now, deploying National Guard was an escalation. Just as the enhanced ICE raids, I guess we can call them, where we went from normal immigration raids that you see in civilized society to ICE agents masked in tactical gear with no documentation, just going in and arresting everybody. Those ICE raids were designed to incite protests. They knew the community would react like this to those ICE raids. When you tear apart families, you tear apart a community, you start affecting the local economy, you send in people who look like they're military raiding Fallujah in 2006. You know you're going to get people angry. You know it's going to incite protests. The administration also knows that sending in National Guard troops is going to make people angry. There's no reason for the National Guard to be there. There's nothing remotely serious enough to warrant National Guard intervention. Nothing remotely serious enough. And now they're going to send in another 2,000 National Guard. So that is an escalation deliberately to upset the community and get people more angry. And then there's certainly nothing remotely serious enough to send in a Marine infantry battalion. A United States Marine infantry battalion is a very dangerous group of people. These are the cream of the crop. These are the best of the best. These are the guys you send in when we're at war in China and you want them to kill people and break things and be real good at it. A Marine infantry battalion is really good at killing people and breaking things. That's what they're trained to do. And we need people like that to defend our country. We need people who are really good at killing people and breaking things. That's why we have Marine infantry battalions. They have no role to play in quelling civilian protests. Certainly not civilian protests that are 99% peaceful. Even if it was a full-on riot, there's no reason to send a Marine infantry battalion in. That's overkill. Complete overkill. Right? That's like using a jackhammer to nail in a little tack nail in a piece of furniture. You don't do that. You reserve your Marine infantry for war, for actual war where our country's at stake. That's why we have them. And yet now they're being deployed. So that's another deliberate escalation to see active duty Marines patrolling the streets with assault rifles. That is meant to incite the population further. This is all part of a design to incite the population, to get the population to rise up. And the administration knows that 1% of those people, they know 90% of them are going to be peaceful, but they know 1% of the fridge are going to get violent because any big group of people, you're going to have 1% who are on the fridge who are going to get violent. They want to incite it. This is their excuse to start cracking down and creating the police state of martial law. There's no secret about this, right? The administration talks about this openly. They were talking about this openly before the election about wanting to do mass deportations. And mass deportations can't happen without deporting innocent people, without making mistakes, without tearing apart families and communities. And they made no secret they were looking to deploy troops against American citizens. So this is not some secret conspiracy. There's no conspiracy here. They have been open about this and transparent. They've been telegraphing what they want to do for a year now. They're not doing it. They're doing it, admittedly, much faster than I thought they would. And now it's happening. So what can you do? The single best tool you have against this sort of authoritarian takeover and attempt to impose a police state is massive peaceful protest. Engage in protest, use your constitutional right to protest, and keep it peaceful. The most successful protest movements in history were peaceful, were long-lived, determined, they didn't give up. They were unified in purpose, not dispersed and anarchic, and they had an articulable goal. Dispersed protest, where there is some violence, even a little bit, that are not unified and without a clear goal, don't work. They only give the aspiring authoritarian what they want. So those people out there throwing rocks and burning cars, even though they're a tiny percentage of the protesters, they are doing exactly what the administration was hoping for. The administration was hoping people would do that to give them an excuse. Don't give them the excuse. Don't play into their hand. Don't do what the administration wants you to do. They want you to get violent. They want you to get pissed. Channel your energy in a peaceful protest. Organize. Be unified. If you're in a position to organize a protest and lead it, try to get in touch with other protest leaders in other cities. Make sure the movement is unified. Make sure you're all on the same page. Make sure you know what your goal is. Massive peaceful protest that is unified with a clear goal can work. The two best examples are the civil rights protests in the United States in the late 50s and early 60s. They went on for years. They were completely nonviolent, completely peaceful. In fact, when police attacked the protesters, what did the protesters do? Did they fight back? Mm-mm. They took it. They took the beatings. You might well say, Ian, I don't want to take the beatings. Well, that's how you fight back, is by taking the beatings. And if you see someone else taking the beating and being peaceful, you live stream it, you video it, you make sure it gets out there. You make sure everybody knows that it's the federal agents who are doing the violence and not the protesters. And if you see people in your protest movement gathering up rocks to throw at the police, don't have a talk with them, put a stop to it. We have to police our own. Don't wait for the police to police us. Police our own. If you're holding a protest rally in your local town, police your own. Do not let any of your protesters get violent. Again, even if there's 100 of you there, there's likely one person who's ready to throw rocks at the police and set fire to stuff. Don't let that person do it. That one person at your rally who commits those acts of violence is going to give the administration the excuse they want. They are doing exactly what the administration is hoping will happen. So we have to police our own. The protests have to be massive, nonviolent, unified. So the civil rights protests in the United States, that's what they did. They were massive, nonviolent, unified. Many of the Euromaidan protests in the late 90s and early 2000s, which overthrew dictatorships in Eastern Europe, they were massive, nonviolent, and unified. Right? The most successful protests, that's how you fight back. The most successful protests are massive, nonviolent, and unified. So police our own, stay peaceful. And if the police get violent, then the police get violent. Let the police initiate it and don't fight back. And you have to resist. Boy, do you have to resist that urge to fight back physically. Fighting back physically against the police is counterproductive. The best way to fight back is to stay peaceful and to document what's happening around you. Live stream it, video it, post it to YouTube, whatever you got to do, and connect with one another. Make sure you know what it is you're trying to do. Have a clear message. Don't just go out and start screaming at police. That doesn't accomplish anything. Have a message. Stop tearing apart our communities. Stop tearing apart our families. Stop arresting innocent people. That's what you can do. And then keep calling your members of Congress, especially your Republican members of Congress as well. And actually, right now, even your Democratic members. The Democratic Party right now is having incredible, serious infighting. If you haven't read about what's happening at the DNC, it's horrible. The Democratic Party is in complete disarray. So call them and tell them to be unified and support one another as well. Because if they're fighting one another, then we don't have an effective opposition party. You always need an effective opposition party. So that's today, June 10th, 2025. Thanks so much, everyone. We will see you soon.